You all know we've had a tough year in recycling, and part of that is because of contamination. If you haven't heard me talk about recycling, then what I would tell you about recycling is that it is. I always use kind of examples of what we see come through our recycle plants, but most of you probably know this, but I mean everything under the sun comes through these recycle plants. I mean, it's in Los Angeles 3 months ago, we had a 15-foot python come through, a live python come through one of our single stream plants. So you can imagine that the sorters were a little bit flipped out over the python coming through. They took a picture of it, they took it off the line. I don't know who took it off, but they took it off the line, took a picture of it. And so that's a little unusual, but everything under the sun comes through these single stream plants. And unfortunately, we can't process everything under the sun. So, garden hoses and baby strollers and bowling balls and deer carcasses, all that stuff is not recyclable through our plants. And so it ends up having to be pulled out, and as you can imagine, some of it doesn't get pulled out and it makes its way through and gets baled and then sent to China. And China said, we're tired of importing trash from the United States. So they basically cut us off. We were, a year and a half ago, we were exporting about 25% of all of our recycled volume was being exported to China. Now it's down to 3%. Now, thanks to Don Micah and the team that really manages our exports, we've done a great job of replacing China with India and Vietnam and Indonesia and other markets, but it's been a challenge for us, and as a consequence, the price of recyclables has dropped through the floor. It's at a 10-year low, and so recycling is a challenge for us. So how do we answer that? Well, in the short term, the way we answer it is through fees, and I talked about how we're better than anybody else with fees. In the long term, we're doing what's called building the recycle plant of the future. So in Chicago, Illinois, we just secured a piece of property, and we are going to start building the recycle plant of the future. It has 40% of the operating cost of a traditional single stream. A lot of robotics in this plant. It's a positive sort versus a negative sort, meaning today when you have a big stream coming up and it's on a big white conveyor belt and there's 20 different pickers picking stuff off the line. So they're picking the garden hose off and they pick all the stuff that's not recyclable off the line. And if you ever have been to one, you see this conveyor's going by really fast. And so a lot of that stuff gets past them. I mean, there may be 20 people there, but a lot of it gets past, and then it has to get picked up somewhere else in the process, and sometimes it doesn't. And that's why we have 20-25% contamination at the end. So the point there is that today we negatively sort. In the recycle plant of the future, we pull the stuff off that we want. And when you do that, the stream is almost by definition much cleaner. And in many cases, what we're testing right now is robotics. So you can imagine a robotic arm that's picking off, and you program it through this infrared eye. You tell it to pick out PET, so it only picks up PET. And it's programmed to recognize PET. It's an amazing technology, and it picks off only PET and puts that in a bin. So as opposed to the hand sort today picking off the 2x4, tomorrow it's picking off a PET bottle, or it's picking off an HDPE jug, or it's picking off cardboard, or whatever you tell it to pick off, it picks it off. And so the contamination is, even if the contamination on the front end is the same, the contamination on the back end of the process is minuscule compared to today. So that's disposal.